up, nerds? Welcome back to the Nerdy Narrative. My name is Leslie Smith, and today on the channel, we're going to talk about how I got catfished by a book reviewer. The main thing that I use social media for is to make sure I don't miss any new releases of authors that I enjoy reading, to see potential new releases that everybody's talking about that I want to get in on. And yes, I can hear those of you that follow me on Twitter saying to your screen, Leslie, you post a lot about basketball too. Yes, I do. I admit I am a huge NBA fan and I will post a lot of stuff about that. And Twitter is where this travesty occurred. I was scrolling through the For You section and something that caught my eye was someone shared a review and had a little tagline above it that said, if you loved Fourth Wing, you will love this book. And it was a review for an advanced reader copy of The Sky on Fire by Jenn Lyons. That was all I needed to know. I went straight to NetGalley, hit request, and was approved. I'm sure a lot of you recognize this author, as Jenn Lyons is the one who gave us A Course of Dragons, which I still haven't read yet. I do have the first book in the series on the shelf here to get to. I got it secondhand from the bookstore. I just haven't worked it in yet. And after trying The Sky on Fire, that's a big maybe if I decide to pick that one up. Let's get into it. Before I jump into my thoughts and opinions about the book, I'll start with the book description. And I'm probably going to pronounce a lot of these character names incorrectly. I didn't have access to the audiobook, just the digital art. I'm going to do the best I can, but we all know I have a hard time with just regular English. Fantasy names really get me. Our main character, Anarud, she is struggling to survive in what is known as the Deep. The way that the Deep is described in the book, it's like a jungle, a very overgrown but lush, dangerous jungle. The reader's first introduction to Anarud is when she is trying to escape being captured by a local warlord. I'm thinking ahead here. I'm going to say the name Anarud a lot, and it's very difficult for me to say, so I'm just going to call her Anna for short. Anna has found herself in a bit of a pickle. She's surrounded with just a few more enemies than she's able to take on by herself. Fortunately, there is a party of adventurers that are traversing the Deep that happen to stumble onto the fray. They jump in and help Anna out. Anna decides to return the favor by helping them navigate out of the Deep. Joke's on her. It turns out this little band of misfits have been looking for her all along, and they want to take her back to the Skylands, where they're planning to use her help in order to steal from a dragon. It just so happens to be the one dragon that wants Anna dead. That's definitely an attention-grabbing book description. And if you're like me, before I read the book, you're thinking, a world ruled by dragons, magic, a heist. This has to be a fantastic book. The only problem is, for me, none of it was executed well or even executed at all. This book had so much potential that was wasted, at least in my opinion. Jenn Lyons put so many interesting things in this book I was excited to learn more about that she never fully explained, and the longer she hinted at things that she didn't explain, it just made me more confused, and then that confusion just gave way to irritation and led to me DNFing the book at 63% of the way in. I was ready to DNF at 5% of the way in, but because I requested this book on NetGalley, and I knew that if I did not provide a written review, that would have a negative impact on my review ratio, and I really didn't want that, so I was trying to push through. I didn't actively hate the book, so I thought I'll just take it slow, a chapter a day, and just inch my way through. With all that being said, I do believe I read enough of the book to give an opinion on the book, and if the author waited until the last 40% to decide, okay, I'm going to develop characters, give them some depth, I'm going to decide to explain the social system of the rings and how this gender changing thing's happening, I'm going to have this one character stop speaking in riddles. If you wait until the second half of the book to decide to do all of those things, you're cramming too much at the end and it could turn into an info dump rather than interesting. So at any rate, let's get into that a little bit more. I am a character-driven reader. I'm not the type that has to have several or all of the characters have development. I just need one good one to either root for or love to hate. Now, there is one character that I enjoyed in this book. It wasn't even the main character, and that would have been enough for me, except that there was a ton of characters, so we're moving around between a lot of them, and nobody got any real depth to them. I mentioned there was a character that spoke in riddles. He always spoke using lines from plays. One of the other characters always had to translate for him, which got on my nerves. What value is that providing to the plot, to the story? Why does this character always have to have these long responses that make no sense and another character has to translate? That's wasted space to me. I'll give you an example. Let me preface this by saying I am reading from the uncorrected arc. That means that what I'm about to say could be changed a little bit in its final publication. No goal is too far for rough dreams and the regrets of old men, but by the dying light of life or day is made slave to the necessities of the coming dark, Qyburn commented. Anarwood glanced sideways at him. He had apparently found his voice, such as it was. He means it's going to be too dark to see soon, Claw translated. Like, what was the purpose of that? The more that went on in the book, the more aggravated I became. Qyburn was integral to this group. He was our magic user. The magic system in this world was done through inscriptions, and that was who Qyburn was for this group. So he was an important character. I just did not like the way that he chose to communicate. Let's move into something I was really excited about initially. I wanted to learn more. I thought this was going to be something that would motivate other fantasy authors to think outside the box, create something like this, but because, at least in the 63% that I read, Jenn Lyons never explained how this worked, the more it got mentioned in passing, the more confused I became. And this element I'm talking about is late blooming or late sprouting. Now, apparently, you could be born and look and act like a girl for X number of years and suddenly, or at least this is how it read anyway, because it never got explained, I don't know, you could just become a man and you were known as late sprouting. Vice versa, you could be born a man, live as a man, and then become a woman, and this was late blooming. I wanted to know how this process worked and why, like what would trigger these changes, and could you possibly change again if you lived longer. So this is a character named Sakarian who is speaking to Anarwood, and he says to her, "You told me you had two mothers." "It was true at the time," Anarwood said, "although it turned out that one of my parents was late sprouting. So her second mom turned into a man, and when Anna sees him later, he looks like a man. She describes him like a man. He's living as a man." I wanted to know more. This sounds cool, right? Super cool. I was so excited. I had never read anything like it. I thought this is going to blow everybody's mind. See what I mean about wasted potential? I was so disappointed not to get that explained. The same thing happened with the way that the Society of the Skylanders worked. Apparently, you got to choose at a certain age social rings and garden rings. These rings would indicate to other people that you met, by looking at your rings, they could tell you prefer men, women, you were into casual sex, your occupation. It's basically social media, but in ring form. Sounds cool, right? Again, never get any explanation as to how that worked. There was so much wasted potential in this book that it just made me actively pissed off the more I read and would get these hints at things that never got explained. And the more it happened, the more angrier I got, didn't want to pick up the book, and just completely lost interest and threw in the towel at 63% of the way in. Going back to the whole reason I requested this book on NetGalley was because a reviewer said that fans of Fourth Wing would love this book. The only two things that these two books had in common with each other is that each of them had dragons and dragon riders. That was it. Well, each one had a school in it, but where Fourth Wing, the setting is the school for the first book, and that was not the case for The Sky on Fire. I wouldn't even put the writing of this book on the same level as Fourth Wing. And I tell you, it's really put me off for trying A Course of Dragons series by Jenn Lyons, though that one seems to have a really huge fan base. I'm just wondering if she decided to try something new with this one. I'll still give it a try at some point, but it's gonna have to be a while. I'm gonna have to get the taste out of my mouth for this book. It just really left me feeling some kind of way. Now, if it did sound interesting to you or you had your eye on this one, absolutely give it a try. I would just caution you to borrow it from your library first. You only need like 5 to 10% of it to be able to tell if this is going to be one for you. And by getting it from your library, you're not out any money and you're supporting your local library. So that's it for me. Those are my thoughts and opinions on The Sky on Fire by Jenn Lyons. For those of you who are still planning to read this one, I hope it treats you so much better than it did me. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.